Hello and very warm welcome at Amish Shackle 5858. I am Amish Shackle. Following news have been reported by American, European, Asian, African, Australian news channels and the news agencies. So please, let's go to the headlines.
On the broadcast, the ceasefire holding, plus why the White House is slamming an initial damage assessment of those Iranian nuclear sites. Today, bombs landing, targets exploding. Inside the tense hours that nearly derailed President Trump's push for a ceasefire, Iran's deadly strikes on Israel, the president's urgent calls for Israel not to strike back.
They came out and they dropped a load of bombs, the likes of which I'd never seen before. The biggest load that we've seen. I'm not happy with Israel. I'm not happy with Iran either.
Plus, our new reporting on the B-2 mission initial damage report, finding the bombings were not as effective as President Trump claimed. Deadly heat wave, more than 150 million sweltering under an unrelenting heat dome. Pavement buckling across the Midwest. In some places, the power is out as thousands wait for the AC to come back on. The Washington Monument shut down, too hot to visit as hurricane season gets fired up in the Atlantic. Sucked out at 16,000 feet, the near disaster aboard that Alaska Airlines flight. A plane in the air with a massive hole. Tonight we're learning the one employee that knew how to install that door plug properly was on vacation. Alligator Alcatraz inside the new migrant detention center being built in the Everglades. Florida's AG saying alligators and pythons will be waiting for anyone who escapes. And Cliffhanger, the semi-driver, hanging on for dear life as his truck dangles over a rock ledge.
This is NBC Nightly News with Tom Yamas. Straight to a Fox News alert, President Trump says he's unhappy with both Israel and Iran, saying both nations violated their bilateral ceasefire agreement.
The president warning Israel that any military action will go against the deal after a senior Israeli official told Fox News that they will have to retaliate with force against Iran's missiles.
So the president right now is heading to the Netherlands to meet with NATO leaders. Here's what he said right before he left. Watch.
I don't think so, but I'm not happy that Israel's going out now. There was one rocket that I guess were fired overboard. It was after the time limit, and it missed its target. And now Israel's going out. These guys got to calm down. Ridiculous. How are you? I didn't like plenty of things I saw yesterday. I didn't like the fact that Israel unloaded right after we made the deal. They didn't have to unload. And I didn't like the fact that the retaliation was very strong. But in all fairness, Israel unloaded a lot. And now I hear Israel just went out because they felt it was violated by one rocket that didn't land anywhere. That's not what we want, I'll tell you. And I'm telling you, I'm not happy about that, Israel, either. All I do is play both sides. I'm going now, as you know, to NATO. Some of you are going with me, and I think it's going to be successful. We'll see. I'll let you know.
Are you going to be the agreement, the new dawn in the Middle East, sanctity agreement you managed to achieve? What are your free future plans for the region, for Saudi Arabia, Israel, Gaza, the hostages?
Look, you're asking me about women in the Middle East. It's getting a lot better. Things are happening at a high level. As you know, Saudi Arabia's done a really good job. It's coming out far faster than I thought. So we're very happy about what's happening with women in the Middle East.
No, I'm talking about a new zone in the Middle East that you managed to achieve last night. Yeah. The region is going to a new place with the specific agreements. Can you talk what's the future plan for Gaza with the hostages?
It's a new dawn. I appreciate the question. You're very nice. Who are you?
Thank you. I'm Nariya Frost, an Israeli channel for years.
Well, we have to have Israel calm down because they went on a mission this morning. I got to get Israel to calm down now.
Do you have to speak with the Prime Minister and then you talk to Prime Minister Netanyahu?
I checked everybody.
You're on both sides not to violate the ceasefire, but reports coming from the region suggest that the sides accuse each other for violating the ceasefire. So
I think they both violated it. I don't think I'm not sure they did it intentionally. They couldn't rein people back. I don't like the fact that Israel went out this morning at all, and I'm going to see if I can stop it. So as soon as I get away from you, I'm going to see if I can stop it. Okay? I think it's been completely demolished. I think the reason we're here is because those pilots, those B-2 pilots, did an unbelievable job. And the fake news, like CNN in particular, they're trying to say, well, I agree that it was destroyed, but maybe not that destroyed. You know what they're doing? They're really hurting great pilots that put their lives on the line. CNN is scum, and so is MSDNC. They're all, and frankly, the networks aren't much better. It's all fake news, but they should not have done that. Those pilots hit their targets. Those targets were obliterated, and the pilots should be given credit. They're not after the pilots; they're after me. They want to try and demean.
You don't believe that Iran can rebuild its nuclear program?
Well, Iran will never rebuild its nuclear. From there, absolutely not. That place is under rock. That place is demolished. The V-2 pilots did their job. They did it better than anybody could even imagine. They hit late in the evening. It was dark with no moon, and they hit that target with every one of those things, and that place is gone. But when I see CNN all night long, they're trying to say, well, maybe it wasn't really as demolished as we thought. It was demolished. You take a look at the pinpricks, and you see that place is gone. And I was
Tonight, the breaking news, the U.S. attack on Iran, and now tonight, this new intelligence report just in, and the reality check. Was the damage as extensive as President Trump has said? Also tonight, the life-threatening heat. New York City, Boston, Philadelphia, all breaking records. And authorities are now investigating a syringe attack at music festivals. Nearly 150 people say they were pricked by needles. First tonight, President Trump insisting Iran's nuclear facilities have been completely and totally obliterated. But tonight here, sources say a new preliminary Pentagon report finds that the damage was limited, saying Iran's nuclear program was only set back a few months. And the moment President Trump lashed out today using an expletive when talking about Israel and Iran and this fragile ceasefire. The life-threatening heat, more than 150 million Americans on alert from Texas to New York to Maine. New York City breaking a record, Philadelphia, all the way up to New England breaking records too. People overcome at outdoor graduations. Major power outages tonight, an Amtrak train losing power. And what this heat does to the body over several days. Tonight, the dramatic move in the Sean Combs trial, the prosecution resting its case after 34 witnesses. The defense then resting its case, calling no witnesses at all. Aaron Katursky standing by with the message Sean Combs' attorneys are trying to send to that jury. Tonight, the violent Border Patrol detention, masked border agents, and an undocumented immigrant at his landscaping job. His 3 sons are all U.S. Marines. The needle attacks 145 people, telling authorities they were pricked by needles. Authorities in France now investigating a series of possible syringe attacks. The victims are now being tested tonight. Here in the U.S., the frightening helicopter crash landing, suddenly flipping over as restaurant patrons looked on. And what you'll see in the sky tonight across 14 states, the spectacular sight. And we remember a teen idol tonight, the singer and TV star, and you'll definitely know his music.
From ABC News World Headquarters in New York, this is World
President Trump launched the expletive heard round the world, urging Israel and Iran to stop fighting.
By the time he arrived in Europe, the ceasefire was in place. Now, how long will it hold?
From CBS News headquarters in New York, this is the CBS Evening News.
Good evening, I'm Maurice Dubois.
I'm John Dickerson.
Tonight, President Trump is in the Netherlands for a meeting of NATO allies.
The summit is taking place as a fragile, hours-old ceasefire between Israel and Iran appears to be holding.
Back in Washington, the administration is disputing an early U.S. intelligence assessment of the damage done by the American airstrikes.
According to a CBS News poll out this evening, a vast majority of Americans say Iran having a nuclear weapon would be a, quote, very serious or somewhat serious threat to both the U.S. and to Israel. Still, a majority of those polled, 56%, do not approve of the U.S. military strikes on Iran.
Our senior White House correspondent, Ed O'Keefe, is traveling with the president. He begins our coverage from outside the Hague. Ed.
Good evening. President arrived here hoped to have completely wiped out Iran's nuclear program and having brokered a ceasefire. But a new initial intelligence assessment tonight suggests the nuclear ambitions may have just been set back a few months. And that ceasefire? Nearly correct. Hours after.
President fired up over Israel and Iran. Tuesday night, the U.S. president fired up over Israel and Iran.
They don't know what the they're doing.
The fragile ceasefire and what the U.S. bombing of Iran did and did not accomplish. Defense dollars, the tens of billions Canada would have to shell out to meet NATO's new spending targets. One baby girl's bout with measles.
We had to take her to the hospital twice.
Her mother's plea to the public. Plus, a prime event delivered with protests.
One big billionaire can't rent
rent a city for his pleasure. The backlash over the wedding of Jeff Bezos.
Good evening and thanks for joining us. It has been an extraordinary 24 hours of foreign policy by social media posts. The U.S. president, already well known for using his Truth Social site to sound off, took it a step further, first announcing a ceasefire had been reached between Israel and Iran, and then, when the attacks didn't stop, President Trump demanded Israel call off the warplanes, posting, "Israel, don't drop those bombs." Israel relies on American weapons and American support, and by this morning, Trump was angry.
Strategic review said 3 weeks ago, and the national security strategy underlined yesterday, is that we need to take some of the threats and different types of attack and risks to our homeland more seriously than we've done in the past. And so one of the things as Defence Secretary I'm concerned about is that growing gulf between those who serve in our armed forces and the rest of society. So Celebrate Forces Week, we recognise a way of saying thank you, but it's also a way of bringing those parts of our community that really don't have any family connection with the forces closer to the forces, so they understand better the nature of the service and the sacrifice that they make to keep us all safe.
You and the government have committed to spending 5% on defence by 2035, but you have been accused of fudging these figures or artificially inflating them by counting measures on net zero and tackling small boat crossings as part of that broader defence spend. So have you fudged the figures, and is it just smoke and mirrors?
No. What's expected to be discussed and agreed this afternoon by the leaders of NATO, the 32, a new benchmark or a new NATO target for 2035 of 5%, and that'll be a combination of core so aboard about security, the sort of thing wanted in budget or seeing more, and this is
and is not an ambitious commitment, not because when 5% ambition, so is this 5% definitely a commitment?
Yes, the Prime Minister has described it as a new commitment. NATO describes it as a new benchmark. But in a sense, the important thing for me as Defence Secretary now is what we're doing now, and people can judge us on that record. We say we're taking the first duty of government to defend the country seriously, and we're putting $5 billion extra in the budget. Within 2 years, we will have had the biggest increase in defence spending since the end of the Cold War, and we've said exactly how we'll pay for it in this Parliament, and we'll pay for it by switching money out of defence, overseas development aid and into defence. So just as we have shown exactly how we for any defence increase in this Parliament, in the next Parliament we'll do the same.
Appreciate your time this morning. Know it's a busy day for you, so thank you very, very much indeed. Have a good conference. We'll leave it there. Thank you very much indeed.
Thank you for your interest.
John Healy is the Defence Secretary, speaking to you there from the Netherlands in the Hague there.
It's just gone 7 o'clock. You're watching GB News Breakfast, and our top story this morning: nuclear warheads are to be carried on British fighter jets in a return to the Cold War era following a deal with the United States.
Well, speaking at the NATO summit, the Prime Minister said we can no longer take peace for granted in an era of radical uncertainty. Political correspondent Catherine Forster is there.
The government is announcing that they are purchasing 12 fighter jets, nuclear fighter jets. They're F-35As. They are capable of taking both nuclear
Africa News. The news.
The U.S. Supreme Court has ruled that the Trump administration can now deport immigrants to third countries like Libya and South Sudan, even if they are not from those countries. The 6-3 decision issued on June 23 allows the administration to bypass earlier court orders that had blocked such removals to migrant city. Justice Sonia Sotomayor, in a sharp dissent joined by Justice Kagan and Jackson, criticized the decision, warning it could expose thousands to violence. The administration recently attempted to deport only one to that country despite it being wrecked by conflict, displacement, and human rights abuses. The group is currently held in Djibouti while awaiting their fate. Critics say the people with stable nations like Libya and South Sudan, where torture, arbitrary detention, and civil war are ongoing, violate both domestic and international legal protections. Despite that, the Trump administration has reportedly signed financial deals with these countries in exchange for accepted deportees.
At least 120 children in northern Mozambique have been kidnapped by jihadist insurgent group Al-Shabaab, International NGO Human Rights Watch said on Tuesday. The children are reportedly being used to transport stolen goods, perform forced labor, and in some cases child soldiers will be forced into marriage. Mozambique has been battling the Islamist insurgency in Cabo Delgado province since 2017. In 2020, the insurgents carried out a wave of attacks, during which they beheaded dozens of people, including children. Government forces have struggled to contain the violence, relying on support from troops sent by Rwanda, South Africa, and other regional partners. The violence has displaced more than 6,000 people into neighbouring provinces, according to the United Nations. Human Rights Watch says there's been a resurgence of attacks and child kidnappings in recent months, and called on Mozambique's government to do more to find the children and prevent further abductions.
South Africa has launched a nationwide livestock vaccination program to curb a growing outbreak of feet and mouth disease, which has hit one of the country's largest beef producers and disrupted the meat industry. Agriculture Minister visited Karen Beef and Gauteng on Monday, marking the start of the feedlot level vaccination campaign, a first for the country.
This is the first time we'll be vaccinating at a feedlot level to get foot and mouth disease under control. But this is obviously very important. The beef industry is exceptionally important to South Africa from both a consumer but also from an economic perspective. Karen Beef, the feedlot where we're at today, is responsible for around 30% of the sector, and obviously has caused price shocks now when the operation is had to be stalled because of foot and mouth disease.
The highly contagious disease, like cloven hoof animals, is not usually fatal, but causes fever, blisters, and reproductivity in infected animals.
Well, the reason now why the state is intervening and vaccinating is to try and bring the viral load down and see how best we can contain the disease, and also to facilitate us getting normality. Currently, the nothing can move in, nothing can move out. So there are cattle that are already ready to be slaughtered, but because of the outbreak, they are unable to be moved to an abattoir.
Authorities hope the vaccination campaign will stabilize the livestock sector and restore trade flows as
launch a Centennial Vision 2060 built as a roadmap for economic development aimed at transforming the African nation to a middle-income country within the next 35 years.
Thankfully, Somalia is not starting from there. So I have no doubt that the country can also become a very ambitious force and succeed. The vision is therefore more than a policy document. It is a declaration of confidence, resilience, and ambition by the Somali people. As such, the United Nations Economic Commission for Africa reaffirmed its steadfast commitment to accompany Somalia every step of the way on its journey.
CB 2060 is the latest step in Somalia's efforts to rebuild its institutions and economy after more than 2 decades of conflict and instability. The most pressing remaining challenges include governance and security problems, food insecurity, environmental degradation, high unemployment, internal displacement, and outward migration.
Thank you very much for giving time to Amir Shackle 5858. I am Amir Shackle. Have a good life. Bye-bye.